Good evening, I'm Nikhil Naz, and our top story comes courtesy Sachin Tendulkar. In his soon-to-be released autobiography, Sachin Tendulkar has written about former India coach Greg Chappell. In fact, slammed him. He's described Chappell as a ringmaster who imposed his ideas on players. Sachin also goes on to add that Chappell tried to replace Rahul Dravid with Sachin as captain just months before the 2007 World Cup. Sachin writes was surprised to hear him not showing the slightest amount of respect for Dravid, the captain, with the World Cup just months away. Chappell also told Sachin Tendulkar during that time that together we can control Indian cricket for almost a year. These were words that were spoken between Greg Chappell and Sachin Tendulkar, and Sachin Tendulkar has written all of this in his autobiography, which is going to be released on the 6th of this month. All right, for more on this, let's go across to Sunil Gavaskar, who joins us live on the phone line. Mr. Gavaskar, I'll start with the last bit, and this is what Sachin Tendulkar writes in his autobiography. He says that Greg Chappell told him that let you and me come together and we can control Indian cricket for a year. To me, this sounds not coming out of a cricket coach. You would expect a general who's planning a coup to say certain things. Can you expect something like that from a cricket coach? Does this also sound like someone who's planning a coup to you as well?
Well, let me tell you one thing, that that particular way, if that is what Greg Chappell said, well, it sounds very, very familiar, because there was one Indian cricketer who then told me many years ago, when the Kerry Packer World Series cricket was on, that if you and we come together and join the Kerry Packer, the BCCI can do nothing. So, you know, it sounds pretty familiar to me, this kind of a talk. But whether Greg Chappell was what he was trying to do, only he would know. I would not know, because I really didn't have much interaction with Greg Chappell during that time.
Mr. Gavaskar, since you mentioned the Packers series, would you like to tell us who that cricketer was who told you this?
No, I think I'll wait for my playing it my way, or Sunny Days 2, or whatever it is, if at all that has to be written. Okay, and that's one of the reasons, in fact, I'm not writing another book, because I really, if I really wrote a book detailing whatever has happened, and for whatever I have been misunderstood by the media and the others, then I think it really would shatter more than one reputation. So at this stage of my life, I don't want to do that.
No, but people I know thoroughly enjoyed your two earlier books. It wouldn't be a bad idea to write another one. I'm just talking about Rahul Dravid now. He goes on to say that let's remove Rahul Dravid as captain. And with the kind of atmosphere, and you know, he's not the first player, Sachin Tendulkar, who's talking about this, the atmosphere of the team around the 2007 World Cup. We, of course, had Sourav Ganguly talk about it, other senior players as well. You know, after India did so poorly in the World Cup, we were looking at scapegoats, who's not done well. Rahul Dravid left captaincy. But in hindsight now, looking back at the entire thing and the kind of revelations that are being made, would it be fair to say that India performed as poorly as they did in 2007, all thanks to the coach that they had?
No, I don't think you can blame the coach entirely for what happens on the field. I don't think that's fair. As long as the coach had a proper work ethic, I don't think you can really blame the coach. I don't think that's fair, because the players are out on the field. It is their bats and their bowling that has got to do the job. Yes, unless they have been misdirected in terms of the way they have been coached, in the way they have been asked to bat, in the way which has happened, not in 2007, but I've seen it happen, where the coach has said something which is technically not correct. Then yes, you could blame the coach, but not for what happened. But I think that I'd like to ask a question as well, is that there were rumblings about Greg Chappell. Why is it that at that stage, all these senior guys did not actually tell Mr. Pawar, who was then the president and who called them together, the truth about what was happening? If they had done that, then it would have been a completely different story.
Right, but we are to, some players have said that when they did have a meeting with Mr. Pawar, they did mention that they were not too happy under Greg Chappell's regime. Wouldn't you say that was probably one of the reasons that he was asked to go after that 2007 World Cup? The players would have given their feedback?
Well, after India didn't qualify for the World Cup, knockout stage, there was no way that anybody was going to be able to make a case for Greg Chappell staying on. And I think Greg himself knew about it. That's why he said that he wasn't interested in an extension.
Right. The reason, Sunny bhai, I talk about the coach being responsible for the 2007 World Cup. You say, technically, if he's giving wrong advice, of course, you can point a finger at him. But, you know, as far as the team atmosphere is concerned, isn't that the coach's responsibility? If you're going to doubt your captain just months ahead of the 2007 World Cup, also doubt what the batting position is. We've had Sachin Tendulkar on record say that Greg Chappell didn't want him to open, something that he himself wasn't comfortable with. If the players themselves are insecure based on the outlook of the coach, that is obviously going to result in a poor performance on the field.
Yes, I think that is going to certainly be at the back of a player's mind, that the coach has wanted him to do this and do that, and I think that is also one of the reasons I believe that with the current scenario, where the Indian players are playing pretty much 11 months of the year, and the coach also is there with them for whatever it is, the coach should not really be part of the selection committee, because he hardly sees any cricket. He hardly sees any domestic cricket. We've actually had a situation just now when the West Indies tour was called off and the semi-finals and the finals of the Duleep Trophy were on, but I'm not too sure whether the coach was around. If the coach had been around, then he would have been able to see some of the younger players who have performed well in these semi-finals and finals, and maybe form an impression about how good or how bad they were. Eventually, yes, it's a selection committee that's going to do the picking of the team tomorrow, but quite clearly an insight from the captain as well as the coach will go a long way in making that marginal call. 10, 12 players generally pick themselves. In a team, it's 13, 14, 15%, for which I think the selection committee needs a little bit of guidance from the coach and the captain, what their planning is. So that would have been the situation, yeah.
Sure. Sunny bhai, the other thing that Sachin writes in his book, and I quote him, he says, I was surprised to hear him not showing the slightest amount of respect for Rahul Dravid, the captain with the World Cup just a few months away. Now, knowing Rahul Dravid, he's probably the most non-controversial, non-confrontational cricketer that you would have in the Indian cricket team. Are you then surprised that there was no respect shown to a diligent captain as Rahul Dravid was?
Well, I think that only Rahul would be able to answer, because you know, respect is what you would get in the dressing room, off the field, and unless you're part of the team, unless you're part of that squad, you wouldn't know whether there was respect shown or not. It's not for me to say whether there was any disrespect shown.
Okay, and finally, Sunny bhai, before I let you go, you say that you are not going to write a book, but are you looking forward, whatever little excerpts you've read, are you looking forward to reading Sachin Tendulkar's book?
You know, I used to read a lot of books when I was playing cricket, basically to try and get an insight into the player and how he approached his cricket, what he thought, what was what you could perceive from the book as a weakness on his part, because that I felt as a player when I was playing would help me. As a captain, it would help me. But after I've retired from the game, I've read very, very few books on cricket. If at all I've read, it's been maybe a chapter or two. But really, I don't know. I mean, I may read the book. I may not read the book. It depends. But quite honestly, I'm more into fiction now than anything else, because at least with that, you know, you are going to be you're going to be entertained.
All right, Sunil Gavaskar, thanks so much for taking that time out and speaking to NDTV.